Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to call the February Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee meeting to order. First item of business, we need to approve the minutes from last month. Do I have a motion to that order?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item, we need to announce a vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals to fill the unexpired term of Tony Webb. That term was set to expire October 2013. And then next is to take up the ever-popular anti-litter ordinance. We'll just, I think everybody knows the history behind this, pretty familiar of it. Came back to the committee, we postponed it for a couple of months, and here we are again. We put some things on the an opportunity for comments on the website, as well as repeatedly asked for public comments. I know I received a few. I emailed those out to everyone. I hope you got a chance to look at those. And I guess we'll just open up for discussion. Any, Commissioner Farley?
I guess my question is, I got an email on it. There's supposed to be a state law now that someone was telling me that we can go by. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there are currently some state litter laws on the books that we can, to some degree, we can enforce. Probably the downside, well, what's not covered under there are some elements of this resolution that are not, this ordinance, that are not covered under those laws.
So are we comparing apples to apples and oranges, or are we apples and oranges?
Jeremy, you can come on. Mayor, you can come up as well if you'd like.
The laws that I believe that they're going to be talking about is that it is a crime in the state of Tennessee to litter. But the definition of what litter means under the criminal statutes is much different than what to litter means under this, which is a civil remedy. So the question asked is, what does this do that the current laws don't? And this is a lot more malleable tool. It covers a lot of different things. It's not, for instance, if somebody throws garbage out on the road, that is a crime. It's also covered in this. But it's a lot more limited definition of what littering is.
Right now, with that law, our codes department would have to go through the criminal process to be able to take care of those things, and may not have some avenues to be able to enforce, where this one would actually give them some teeth of enforcement.
Yes, sir. It does give the codes department that authority, but what is probably a better kind of way to look at it is that what the codes department would be doing is different than what the criminal statutes do. So, for instance, when you're talking about somebody who has their property and it's all covered in litter, that's not a crime. This allows the codes department to deal with that issue, but that's not a crime. To have litter on your own property is not a crime. And so there's things that we've kind of floated around, these semi-hypothetical situations or actually real-life situations. This would address some of those, but whereas the criminal statutes do not currently address it.
And I'm bringing it because, because I was posed that question, and I wanted to be able to get the answers. I thought I was right, and I understood it the way you addressed it, so I appreciate that.
Well, we pulled some of that out where, and it's in this that we're proposing as far as your paying people that turn in other people, that come out of that state law litter thing that you're talking about. That portion of it come out, and that's what we're incorporating in this. So, we've taken sections of that and
Yes, sir.
incorporated it into this law.
Does Tennessee state law address the issue of unwanted newspapers?
No. Mr. Russ Willis is planning on being here. I'm sure I've talked with him this afternoon, and he's on his way. So he's the newspaper attorney, and he wants to be here. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that.
Do we need to, if that's the case, do we need to move on and maybe give him a chance, or I don't know. I'm just throwing that out on.
I'm ready to make a motion.
We addressed every issue that he brought forth, I believe, didn't we, Jeremy? And pretty much to his satisfaction.
Yes, sir, I believe, and he's put in I haven't seen it, but I will understand that he sent Commissioner Coggins
Yes, I've passed it around there.
so,
If I could make a comment before Commissioner Sanders' motion. I know last time, I forgot when last time was, that I was an advocate for maybe taking some of the teeth out of the newspaper issue, and I've changed my mind on that. So if that's gonna be part of your motion,
Mine's a pretty subtle motion.
well, I'll let you make your motion and we'll discuss it.
Well, let me ask this, I mean, I know there was probably 6 or 7 either way on some of the website that we asked input on, you know, kind of evenly matched for and against. I know there were some commissioners that's not on the steering committee that had some reservations. Because has anybody heard anything from those commissioners?
I have. I heard something from Commissioner Jernigan today. He's still in opposition to this proposed bill.
I'll just go ahead and before Commissioner Sandlin makes his motion, I'll just kind of tell you where I am after reading these and talking to a few people. Yeah, I think it's obvious when you drive around the county, there's something that needs to be done. And I don't know that we'll ever get to a perfect solution. But I don't have, I'm not sure that this resolution is that even close to perfect solution right now as our county sits, and at least, when I say our county sits, our county's public opinion sits to me. Even the people who found positive things in it, I think the positives are things that could be addressed by the state litter laws. Now, I understand that this resolution encompasses a whole lot more than that. And it's a really thorough, really good resolution. But I'm just not sure that's where we need to go. I don't feel that we need to go right now, but that's just my opinion.
Well, with that, I'm going to make a motion to deny the anti-litter ordinance or to not approve the anti-litter ordinance. And if I get a second, I'll do a little
Second.
explaining on that. Thank you. I'm not happy, like you just mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I'm not happy with it, and I don't know if we'll ever, all of us ever be happy with any ordinance that we do. But usually if there's one or two little things in an ordinance that, you know, I'm not particularly happy with, but there's more positive than there is negative, then I'll go along with it. And I just see more negative in this and the way we've got it. And I know a lot of work's been done, and I appreciate you and the attorney's office and everything. I'm not happy with section 21 and the newspaper part. To me, it's giving them an out to not be responsible for those papers being delivered to people who don't want them. I got a call just, I think it was last Friday. This family has called at least 10 times, either from the daughter, the mother, other family members, and then plus them themselves, and telling the newspaper that they do not want this newspaper dropped off, thrown out the window, delivered, however you want to say it. And it's still every week, or whenever they do it, you know, they throw it out there. And he said, I don't think what y'all gonna do is gonna help that. And section 21 gives, I think, the paper the out of being responsible for that. So they have something in place that they have to really beef up or correct to get that. Now, there is a number on there, and you can call, and you're supposed to be able to get it not delivered to your property, or your home, or residence, or whatever. And that's not working. So they've got some work to do over there, but I don't think what we're doing here is going to help that. I agree we need something, but I don't think this is it. And this 8 or 10 pages or whatever doesn't give me the warm and fuzzy of taking care of our constituents in our county. So that's the reason why I made the motion to deny. And I really kind of hate that after so much work and hard work and everything's gone into this, but I'm just not comfortable with it.
I want to echo that too, and that the fact that so much work has been done on this by us, but particularly you and others, is not enough reason to vote for it if I just don't feel comfortable with it. And I think, I recognize we've got some situations that need to be addressed. And I'm cognizant of the fact that they're not in my district also. And that makes me feel, well, I'm not helping somebody solve their problem. That bothers me. The city takes care of my district is the reason I said that. But this is, to me, is a very heavy-handed document. There's a lot of government in there. And I just, I'm troubled enough by it to second Commissioner Sandlin's motion.
The only problem I've got is a situation like in my district. This is more far-reaching, and there's got to be some happy medium in this county to actually help control and combat some of those issues like I've got. And I know Jack and Steve and Trey, y'all got it in y'all's areas, something like, like I've got. But it is a little far-reaching on some things. Hopefully, we can come up with some kind of less regulations that will take care of those situations. And I would like to ask the Codes Department to look at some of those and kind of see if there's some kind of mechanisms. And I'll be more glad to contact David Jones myself. And but I agree, there is some things in there that are far-reaching.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
To the record, so 1 no. Motion passes. Jeremy, thank you again for your hard work and due diligence on this. One thing's for sure, we found at least something that is not the answer. Thank you very much. I think Mr. Wills can make it here. Next item of business, Mayor, if you want to come on up, clarification of duties of chairman. This came up, I guess, a couple months ago ironic enough, from the anti-litter ordinance, due to some confusion as to the duties of a chairman, and spoke to the mayor earlier or last week, and I think he has some wording.
I
You
do.
want to add to that?
Would you go on to the next agenda item? I need to bring my
Sure.
commissioner's handbook up here, and I failed to bring that.
Absolutely. Next item, moving on to agenda item number 4, archives and record management fee. You want to come on up? You can speak to this if you don't mind. You have before you, I think, a copy of this document.
Absolutely. We have an opportunity to add an additional fee to our case filings here in the county, in our court system. And this fee will be specifically to maintain our records. Coming into office, finding that we haven't scanned or microfilmed any of even just our minute books since 1994. There was a gentleman that volunteered to do that in the late 80s and 90s, and he stopped doing that in 94. So none of those minute books have been archived in any way. So that puts it us at a risk, because those are permanent records, and we have a lot of permanent records in our court system. So this fee would be to provide a way for us to pay for that expense going forward.
What kind of expense, or what kind of, is it gonna pay for what it's gonna cost, I guess is what I'm
Yeah,
getting at.
we're behind the 8 ball already. Just to give you an idea, this is a listing of all of the records within the court that are considered permanent records. And if we just speak to minute books, which is the voice of the court, that's probably like a 15th of the permanent records that we have in our court. A minute book has about 700 pages in it, and we're over 350 minute books behind in archiving in some way those books. And a down and dirty estimate, just from the gentleman who's actually doing our Register of Deeds scanning right now, he estimated to do the scanning of the records and provide 2 copies of microfilm, it'd be $150 a book. So that's about $52,000 just to catch up. To look at our case filings from last year, if we use last year as a total, and we look at civil filings only, because that's really where we can only guarantee that we're gonna get some money, because you have to pay to file that civil filing. For the year, that would come out to about $69,000. So, yes, it could pay for itself, but we've got to generate some revenue before we can actually start the
At
project.
some point during the year, how long would it be before we could break even on this person doing that and versus how much money we're gonna be taking in?
I'm not sure how to answer that question, because we're so far behind, and when you look at, in our courts of record, we're generating a minute book a month. So we're generating a new book every month. So while this is going on, by the end of February, we'll have 3 new minute books to add to the over 350 that we're already behind. I would hope that we would be able to address that very quickly, but it also depends then on what tactic we take. Do we just do a down and dirty, let's get some quick microfilming of this so we are protected, or do we go a little bit further and do some kind of searchable record or emailable record that would then provide another service to the legal community? So I have not done some really extensive requests for proposals or anything like that, because I don't have a source of revenue to pay for this. If we were to do this, it would come out of the revenue that we generate already. So that's why I'm bringing the resolution to add that fee, so that we can then actually decide what tactic we want to take. Just simply protect the records, or protect them and provide an additional service.
So we're generating about 36 of these books a year,
Yes,
what you're saying?
yes,
And we're 300 and whatever
Yeah.
behind now.
yes. So we'd have to, if this is approved, we'll be able to
Goodness.
start generating some revenue in March or April, right? And then first of the year, we'll be able to start actually attacking these.
I don't want to repeat Mr. Carley's question, but you don't see a surplus anytime in our future, do you?
Not in the near future, no, absolutely not, because this is not, this is only a very small portion of the permanent records that we have to maintain in some way, shape, or form.
Is that system, not going this is getting it paperless, what you're doing, or is,
It will never
can
be
they?
paperless per se. There's
Never
not-
say never now, no names.
Well, do you see any time that the court system is ever going to be paperless? No.
It's semi-paperless in the federal court system at this point. But state court is probably not going to be that in the near future.
So right now, it's just put on microfilm.
Right now,
No.
it's not put anywhere. That's the point.
It's just all paper.
It's just all paper.
And so what we want to do is put it on
On,
micro.
on a scanned file,
Okay.
so that we have access to it within our offices, and on a microfilm, so that we can send that to the state archives.
And so someone doing research will be able to go,
Into our office, and pull up this information, and look at a specific filing.
and just one more question, who exactly will be paying the fee?
Any person who files any legal proceeding, in a civil situation, that's going to be probably an attorney who's filing a civil warrant or a detainer warrant. Eventually, the defendant is going to be paying that fee. Once they're, if the judgment is found, or if it's found for the defendant or for the plaintiff, then the defendant will end up paying for that.
So one court case would be just one document, or could there be numerous documents? in
There
one
could be
court?
numerous documents, but this fee can only come for the first filing. The first time that comes to the court, that's when the fine, not for every document that's filed.
So on one court case would be $5.
One court case would be $5, exactly.
The books that we have now, the 300 and something that were behind, where are they stored at? Are they in a protected area in case there's a fire?
They are in our judicial building, in the Murfreesboro Bank building. They're files that we access on a regular basis.
They are.
So people go and use those for research. They can pull the file, individual file, but they also go to those minute books
If those
for
books
research.
were lost or whatever, and we didn't have the backup, what would happen?
There would be, it would be a difficult task to even try to put them back together. We'd have to figure out, I don't see how we could actually do that. We have a lot of our records are already archived with the county archives, but even those records needs to be accessed occasionally.
How far back does those books go as far as date?
They're permanent records,
I'm
so.
talking about-
The ones that have not been scanned,
Right.
the beginning of '94.
But before that, what was done?
There was a gentleman that volunteered to microfilm those records, yes. And I think he went back to the mid-'60s is what the state archive said that they have, as far as microfilmed records. And all of those other records are with the county archive.
What's the downside if we don't do this?
Well, I still feel a responsibility to make sure there's some kind of scanning, some kind of archiving done on this. I'd like to do it with a revenue source to pay for it, without a revenue source that's going to come from the revenue that we're already generating. So, because we don't have them secure, and we need to access them on a regular basis, I feel a responsibility to make sure that they're cared for.
Seems like to me it's just good business to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Protect us.
Right.
We've got to have a full backup system.
If I recollect, it was something said about this 5 or 6 years ago. If something happened, the state could penalize us, I think, some way or another. And I'd hate to see that happen.
Wow. Just after the guy quit
This
buying
five-
it. Well, I'm
This
sorry.
$5, it's gonna be going to a designated fund.
Yes, yes. it can
Line
only-
item directly
Yes.
for this, right here.
Yes, and it can only be used for this process. Whether we do it internally, whether we do this, gentlemen, and just quickly scanning and microfilming, or whether we go to a more extensive service that provides searchable information.
So after the gentleman stopped in '94, nothing's been done since then.
No.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve
I'm gonna second.
and just send it to budget just for clarification. We don't have to approve it in budget, but just for them to know about it and
It doesn't need to
I
even
mean,
go to
Lisa's,
budget. We'll start collecting the money in the special fund.
I'm sorry, sir.
It doesn't need to go to budget. The money that we start collecting, once we get this officially approved, will go into a special fund that Lisa will designate for this purpose only.
Well, I was just saying this for informational only for budget. I mean, we're not gonna act on it. We just, for them to know about it, is all.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
It's not about this, but how's the collection stuff going?
It's going really well, really, really well. I'll keep you posted on how that's
That'll
going.
work.
This will certainly help in that process.
It will.
Yes.
Any further non-related discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
She brought up something property management one night, that's why I asked.
I know.
Yeah.
How's it? All right, Mayor, are you ready for agenda item number 3?
Yes, sir.
Again, just for clarification of duties of chairman, there was some question as to exact duties of the chairman in reporting the actions of a committee to the full commission, and whether or not that they had to make the motion that was brought out of committee, or if they could make a different motion to be voted up or down. So that's kind of where we are. And the mayor has gotten some wording together that I think might start our discussion, and then we can go from there.
Okay, this is part of your Commissioner's Handbook, Chapter 2, Rules and Regulations. Under Rule number 7, there's a heading, Committees General. And it talks about speaking limitation, officers election, committee meetings open to the County Board of Commissioners, members, et cetera. Authority of committees. E, under Rule 7, is a reporting procedure. And this is the way currently this reads. The procedure for reporting the findings of the committee to the commission shall be as follows. The chairman or a member he so designates shall report from the rostrum in front of the courtroom. Upon presentation of a resolution, the speaker shall yield to questions. Discussion shall be had after there has been a motion, a second, and so stated by the chairman. Only then shall there be discussion. There shall be a vote on the resolution when discussion is complete, and where there is a call for the question by the commission. In order to accomplish basically what he's suggested there, or said that was the point of issue, under E1, where it says the chairman or a member he so designates shall report from the rostrum in the front of the courtroom, to accomplish the wishes of the committee, I would suggest that we add one sentence that says, it shall be the duty of the chairman or a member he so designates to make a motion that complies with the findings of the committee. That would take the recommendations that have been brought forth from any particular committee. It would be required then to put that motion on the floor, whether or not the chairperson agreed or disagreed.
Right.
Am I correct in saying that if a chairman, if a commissioner makes a motion from the floor of the commission, he or she must vote for it?
That's not in your.
That's not correct.
It's not in these rules anywhere that would say something for that.
I know that I could second something and not vote for it, but I thought if you made a motion, you had to vote for it. No?
I don't think so.
No.
Not unless Robert's rules,
I don't think
I
so.
don't believe I've ever read
Well, then
that.
I think what you read there would do nicely.
So if a committee chair made a motion that they didn't agree with, of course, they're gonna go on record as far as making a motion, but they could vote against it. Or in a situation, they could probably have another member of the committee come up and just make that motion.
Whoever he designates, yeah.
Well,
Okay. And that's been done before.
yes and no. I mean, that, what I understand the chairman's duties are is to bring up in front of the full commission, basically what we just said, the findings of the committee. Whether they're for it or against it or not is irrelevant. They have to bring forward, if a motion was to approve X, Y, Z, then they would send a motion to the full commission to approve X, Y, and Z. But when it comes time for the chairman to vote, then the chairman can vote no, even though he's made a motion to approve of what the committee has done.
In times past, what's happened occasionally, and I can give you an example where Commissioner Jimmy Evans was chairman of budget. He read the motion,
Mhm.
pointed to Bob Bullen. Bob Bullen said, "I so move." So I think there's an out, if the committee chairman doesn't want to go on record, making a motion he totally disagrees with, then
I've been
It's like-
chairman of Public Works before, and, you know, there was a motion that came up, and I made the motion to approve, and we got a second, and I said, you know, I'm just clarifying and bringing forth what the committee had brought. I will be voting no on this because of whatever reason, and then made sure I had voted no, but I was bringing as the chairman the findings, like the mayor said here, of the committee and what the committee has decided. So, to me, that's part of the chairmanship of reporting what the committee does in whatever committee it is.
Well, there's a difference between reporting and actually making a motion, in my opinion. If there's something on public safety that I don't agree with, I don't want to stand up there and make a motion that I'm in favor of it and turn around and look and vote
But
against it.
that's your responsibility as being chairman.
But I can advise the commission on what actually happened through the process that had come out of public safety, but I don't mean I've got to make a motion.
Or a person you so designate would have to make the motion.
Either one of them would work. What Commissioner Goose just said would work. If you felt strongly, or if you felt strongly about something, to the point of I just cannot vote for this and I don't want to make that motion, you can ask another person to make it. Or you could just report you didn't really care, or you realize you lost your vote and you're going to go along with the majority, and you make the motion yourself. Either way, it's illegal.
But what that sentence says is the motion will be made. It just doesn't have to be the chairman. It can be someone he designates.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have to bring the findings of the committee to the full commission.
So if I, as chairman of public safety, if something comes up, I don't have to make the motion. I can look at, Trey's on public safety with me. I can look at Trey and he can make the motion. I'll just stand up there at the podium and let everybody know what actually come out of the committee.
Right. You can read exactly what came out of the committee.
And instead of saying, I so moved at the end of what you're reporting, that this is what you're presenting, and you're not moving. So it's, as the chairman, you don't have to let it go to somebody else or designate somebody for that one motion.
And the language that you read, that's what you're wanting to add, talking about adding, will do that.
Yes.
The main thing is having the full commission abreast of what the committee has done and its process. Otherwise, we could be all for and one against. The chairman could be against what just approved by all votes except for one, and then not want to present it to the full commission. That's not reporting what the full, what that committee just did. And so they have to do that.
But I don't want it fixed where a chairman's hands are tied, just turn around and make a motion on something and turn around and look stupid.
Careful.
Yeah.
You know, and have to turn around and vote against it.
Well, I don't think it's ever been that way. It brought my attention to one of the meetings, and that's where I was like, man, if this isn't in writing, you know, this is the way we've done it since I've been up here as a county commissioner, and since it's not in black and white, then we need to clarify that. We need to clear that up, because I don't think the chairman's doing its duty to the committee if it's not reporting what the committee's done. And that's the job of the chairman, to do that. So, like I say, you can sit up there and you can read whatever motion there is, but then not make it. That's the very end of that motion saying, I so moved. You don't do that. Somebody else moves for you, and then gets a second and moves on.
Well, I just want to make sure and get clarification on that, because, you know,
I believe that would work.
Whatever makes you happy.
Just trying to be thorough. And something that's in black and white.
No, I do not have.
I have a motion to approve the wording.
Second.
I'm gonna say this. I don't think that, as long as I've been up here, I don't think there's been a commissioner, or chairman, or chairperson that has really ever tried to deceive the commission. Even if I've agreed or disagreed with them, I don't think that's,
I agree with that. I don't think that Commissioner Coggin was doing that, you know, when he, you know, I don't think that was his intent at all. I'm not speaking for him, we've talked about it, so
Yeah.
I'm just saying if the chairman has to represent the committee and what its findings were.
Well, the chairman is the leader of that committee, and
But if you don't report what the findings are on the committee, then you don't need to be chairman, in my opinion.
well, I think that night, I think he did
So,
report the findings of the committee.
This is just clearing it up and putting it in black and white is
Yeah.
all. For any chairman that's going to be chairman, any future point has to send to the full commission the findings of what the committee did.
Yeah.
With all due respect,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have, they might read the minutes that Shelton sends out as well. And they'd know when they got there how everybody voted.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Like I said, I don't hold any ill feelings toward Commissioner Coggins at all. I mean, we've talked about it, and that's just,
I just didn't want nobody.
this clears it up, I believe.
I just didn't want nobody out in the TV, I was thinking that we're, because we get accused of things like that anyway, and I just,
Yeah,
I felt
yeah,
that should be addressed, so.
yeah. That works.
Got a motion, we have a second, did we? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is the bill request to rescind the OEM exemption of wheel tax and license fees for Rutherford County. Commissioners, if you'll remember, this has come out of our last steering committee meeting in January with the legislative delegation, where we discussed with them a technical corrections bill that was passed, goodness, I believe in 2009. And you have a resolution before you asking them to, I believe, exempt Rutherford County out of that part of the bill. Have any discussion on this?
Where does this go, assuming it passes here, where does it go after it leaves this committee?
Mayor.
It would go to the state legislature by our delegation.
Okay, doesn't have to go to anybody else in the county. Well, they would get it. Didn't Senator Tracy say that they needed everything by the 17th? Am I right on that date?
It's our next county commission.
I think that's about the date. This would be timely submitted.
Okay.
Yeah, 17.
So this fee is exactly what?
That's the wheel tax.
So vehicles that Nissan that if they produce a.
Employees, like an employee leases one, whether it be Rutherford County, Sumner County, wherever, they were paying the wheel tax in Rutherford
Okay.
County.
So it's just employees of the company who leases a vehicle
Right.
right now are exempt from paying a wheel tax, and this would ask the state legislatures to just exempt Hamilton County, or take us out of that.
Take Rutherford
Okay, I
County.
see.
And I think what it was about $200,000, basically what Rutherford County actually lost. And we were actually getting what every county, wherever that car went, we actually got that wheel tax at that time. Is that correct, Mayor?
I believe that's correct. In other words, whether the employee resided in our county or not, at the point initially, Nissan was, for all those vehicles they leased, they gave over to Rutherford County that wheel tax amount. Technically, there could be a point made that they should have been giving over the wheel tax to the other counties whereby some of those employees were living. Not all of them are here by any stretch. So we probably got more than we should have, or if some of the other counties had objected even earlier for those many years previously.
So those people could be paying a wheel tax in several counties then?
No, they weren't paying it except in one, because Nissan was handling the whole transaction for them.
Okay. But that's just not just Nissan, it could be any company.
It
that
can be
leases-
any
okay.
company that manufactures the whole car. And right now, there's only two, I guess, since Saturn is not being manufactured there. There's not one over there, but that one would have applied even there. Or if they start manufacturing another one, they would be exempt there as well.
called the leasing part of Nissan to see if I could get an accurate number. Because at one time it was like $1 million, and then it was like 500,000, and it was like 200 or 250,000 or whatever. And the person over the leasing thing, they said they've had to redo that because of some situations with driver's license and out-of-county employees, you know, where your driver's license here, but your registration's here, you know, so it didn't work correctly. So this person told me it's just right at $100,000 what Rutherford County's employee living in Rutherford County is what they're getting. It's about $100,000. And so each county now is credited with its own wheel tax, if there is any, or whatever, because of that situation. Because if your vehicle's registered or whatever from here to Smyrna, Rutherford County, and then your driver's license is Williamson County or Wilson County, then it didn't match up when they were checking that. And so
Right.
they would actually get fined or cited or something, and then it caused a lot of problems for them to kind of clear up if they were speeding or whatever other violation they may be pulled over for. So I just checked that out to see what they would say.
And I had also heard that it was not as nominal as first anticipated as well.
Mayor, I'm just gonna come out and ask you, is this a fight that we need to be involved in? Or is this gonna cause ill feelings or bad will? I mean,
Well, let me say 2 or 3 things. Point of clarification. When they first initiated this process and exempted the OEM manufacturers from this, there was a period of time whereby the counties were getting allocated their part for those residences. We don't think that's actually happening now, but that's just a point of clarification. So the 100,000 that you quoted, the numbers we quoted, someone did early on was too high. I grant you that. At its full thing, we probably were getting 200 when we were getting all of it for every employee, regardless of the county. I think all of you need to take into serious consideration the fact that Nissan is an extraordinarily excellent, outstanding corporate citizen of Rutherford County. They're providing thousands of jobs. They're investing over $1 billion new to create an expanded operation there and to create a new vehicle and a new plant to manufacture batteries. And they're going to generate hopefully another 1,300 or more jobs over the next few years. So I think that's pretty important in the scheme of things, in that everyone is wanting us to do everything possible to encourage the creation of a new job. So I think in view of the fact that they've been extraordinarily outstanding corporate citizens, I think you ought to give serious consideration for being a partner with them.
But they're paying, are they paying a wheel tax regardless of where it is?
They're their own clerk, you might say.
Okay.
In that the state of Tennessee has allowed them to issue their own tags and even provide the tags for them free of charge. So they're paying, I guess you might say, state licensure fees to the state, but they're not paying anybody wheel tax. They're exempt from those taxes.
But they were not prior to this act.
Prior to this act, they were paying us. Rutherford County, we were getting the wheel tax for each vehicle they issued or leased to an employee, regardless of their residence, of county residence.
How much money, does anybody know how much money to our school system that, I know, I think at Riverdale, or maybe some more schools that they've donated computers and stuff like that to our schools?
We don't know. They have a group of their partners there that distribute substantial dollars to any number of charitable and educational organizations every year.
Let's go back over that again, Mr. Mayor, if you would, the actual license plate itself, are they paying for that?
No, the state is providing those for them. That's part of this exemption process. The state provides their plates even, free of charge. And I haven't seen one of them, but they have their own name on them somehow. I don't know exactly how that works.
Anybody else? We have a motion?
Who sent this wording? Just your, it's fine, the wording is fine. Is that
This came from our county attorney's staff. I don't know whether Jeremy did it. Jeremy may have done.
I drafted part of this, and then Mr. Coe kind of put his own touch.
This
to
is
it.
extraordinarily complex. You can see I almost could say, more than a dozen locations of the TCA code that is affected by this. It's overwhelming.
Not that it's particularly important, but we did ask our state legislators, at least 4 of them that were there, to weigh in on this sort of. And now we've done something and we might not do it. I guess that's the risk you take.
They'll represent it if it's 2/3 or more, right?
If you get this past 2/3, they will submit a bill into the system.
I brought it up, and I asked the legislatures that night, I want people that are supposed to be paying for the wheel tax to be paying for it, just like everybody else is required to do. But also on the other hand too, like the mayor said, Nissan has been a good, corporate neighbor here, and they do bring in a lot of jobs. Is $100,000, worth messing up a few hundred jobs? That's the $64,000 question. That's the $100,000 question. Do I think that, given, and not to run any legislators down, but the ones that here that night said they would enforce it or would help try to get it done, do I think the other legislators in Nashville would go on board with it? Probably not. But,
I can't think of a reason of why the state would give them their license plates for nothing, other than just plain goodwill to a huge employer, sort of like what the mayor just said. And I know we don't have a motion or anything, but I don't know that I agree with this. I think that I'm gonna think about that.
I think instead of having a knee-jerk reaction and it costing us in the long run, sometimes it's better to wait. And this may be one of those things where it may be better to wait.
But if we wait, and I'm not arguing that we should or should not, but if we wait, we don't do it this time, then it won't be next year.
We got next
Which is
year.
fine with me.
So we need a motion
Is that a
saying this right here.
No, I don't,
So it seems like everybody here is pretty much sold.
I'll make a motion that we
Agrees on
table
this.
it.
I'll second.
Yeah, I think that's probably best.
Table it till you want to discuss it again.
Is that
Motion
reviewing
and
it?
second.
Is
Do you have any
that,
other discussion?
is that reviewing it and maybe bringing it up next year? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll just make just a comment,
Yes, sir.
2 comments actually. Over $100,000, I don't think that Nissan would use that to leave Rutherford County or even cut a job. And I think that Nissan has been a wonderful corporate in Rutherford County, but Rutherford County has also been a very good government toward them as far as property tax abatements and different things. And I know they do a lot for us, but we do a lot for them. I'm not opposed to tabling it, but I think that comment should, need to be made.
Point well taken.
And I agree, I mean,
Yeah.
Hopefully they do too.
Well,
Any other discussion?
in the light of the way jobs are right now, we need every job we can get coming to Rutherford County, and I'd hate to, let $100,000 tick somebody off down there, and next thing you know, it is what it is.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, next item that, again, came out of the last steering committee meeting is the bill request to remove the County Powers Relief Act, the inability of the county to enact a realty transfer tax. Got to get that out right. Again, I guess trying to recall some of our discussion, we've had it before. I think this is one of the first things we talked about 5 years ago when I first got on and I was on the steering committee. We talked about this and looking at, I guess, getting out of the County Powers Relief Act so that we could enact the real estate transfer tax. I guess we can start our discussion there. Any comments?
Well, I had brought this up strictly because of the subcommittee that we had back in years ago with a number of us. I think looking for ways or other ways of bringing in dollars to the county without property tax. What else is out there? What can we do? What can we not do? There was a ton of things we couldn't do. There was only just a very few things we could do. And one of these, I think one of the builders at the time here in Rutherford County, and may still be doing some building, that brought up this real estate transfer. And I think Candy Roberts with the real estate board was on that committee as well. And so we bounced that around a little bit as far as what we could do or what we couldn't do. No fee or dollar amount was ever put on this. This was just looked at for some other counties that had done it, like in some other northern counties, I believe, that had put real estate transfer in place. What we did say in that committee process is that if we enacted the real estate transfer, we would definitely take our development tax, or would want to take our development tax off. And so that was a given there. When they come out with the County Powers Relief Act, at the end of that bill, they put on there a number of things that you couldn't do if you were in the County Powers Relief Act, which it charged $1 per square foot on new building, new house rather, or whatever. And at the end of that bill, there was like impact fees, real estate transfer, development tax sort of things, and I don't have that bill in front of me, but there was a number of things on the end that they tacked on, it seemed like maybe last minute, onto this bill. Now, I didn't hear back from our attorney on it. He was going to check it out and see, and I don't know if, Becky, if you got an answer from that, or whether...
He did this one, we got the bill right here as well. So.
Okay, all right, well, come on up. So what I was asking is that, in reality, with us, Rutherford County, not being under the County Powers Relief Act, we actually don't even have to have this redone, if I'm correct in this, because we're charging a development tax right now, a development fee. So if we wanted to drop the development fee and pick up the real estate transfer, we actually could probably do that.
This is this is my understanding, and the statute, I'll just kind of read this aloud.
Okay.
It's TCA 67-4-2913. After June 20th, 2006, no county shall be authorized to enact an impact fee on development or a local real estate transfer tax by private or public act. In addition, this part shall be the exclusive authority for local governments to adopt any new or additional adequate facilities taxes on development. However, the provisions of this part shall not be construed to prevent a municipality or county from exercising any authority to levy or collect similar development taxes or impact fees granted by a private act that was in effect prior to June 20th, 2006, or from revising the dedicated use and purpose of a tax on new development from public facilities to public school facilities. A county levying a development tax or impact fee by a private act on June 20, 2006 shall be prohibited from using the authority provided in this part so long as the private act is in effect. My understanding is that this County Powers Relief Act does apply to us. However, we beat them to the punch in a way by having that development tax in place prior to June 20, 2006.
Right.
So, however, this real estate transfer tax that's being discussed right now, there was no, I didn't notice a grandfathering provision in the specific statute for even if there was a county that had it prior to June 20th, 2006. So what this has done is has created a blanket prohibition for all counties that they cannot have real estate transfer taxes. Whereas on the other side of the coin, if you had a development tax in place prior to June 20, 2006, there was a grandfather provision. So that's kind of, that would be my understanding on that issue.
Okay. See, what I was thinking, that it was in, and I was thinking that you said it, but you may not have, in conjunction with this County Powers Relief Act. You couldn't do both. You couldn't do the County Powers Relief Act and any of these others that they tacked on at the end of the bill. So if we're not doing that anyway, we could actually do it, is what I was thinking. Now,
You cannot do both the county powers relief and the development tax like you can
Right.
only do one.
I agree.
If we have the one, that's all we can do. That's the only tool in the toolbox.
Right. But if you take, if you're not under the County Powers Relief
We
Act.
are under, everybody's under this act. Everybody is still governed. This is a public act. And anything it says applies to us regardless of where we had that development tax or not previously.
So
That means that any-
if Rutherford
no
County
county-
hasn't adopted this,
You don't have to adopt it. The state passed this.
okay,
This is state law. No county shall be authorized to enact an impact fee on development or a local real estate transfer tax by private or public act. That's it. That's state law.
that's pretty heavy duty right there.
That's it.
I don't think that's even constitutional, is it?
Yeah, they passed it.
It is now.
But they hadn't been challenged on it evidently.
I don't
But,
think they want to go there.
yeah.
So if you're a
I
county that
understand.
doesn't have anything, this prohibits you from even asking.
Well, you can have you can put this, what's called this County Powers Relief Act, you can put this dollar per square foot in place. That's what this allows. If you have nothing else, that's the only thing it allows.
An adequate, and that's an adequate facility
Yes,
tax?
yes, sir.
So even a development tax now.
You couldn't do it.
Can do.
No, sir.
See, back early on, we talked about doing really $1 a square foot. And that we were trying to think of something that was, I don't want to say more fair, but fair, across the board. And the $1 a square foot, whether you're building a 1,200 square foot house, 1,500 square foot house, or 10,000 square foot house, it would be levied on what the square footage was. Well, that failed big time. So come out with the flat rate on here, this is what we're going to do, and that's what passed. But, there were talks back then, and this is one reason why I was opposed to really both of those, because I really didn't like the way it was set up, that you're picking on the new developer. You're picking on that one entity of building new homes. It wasn't broad base like a real estate transfer would be. And we didn't even know about real estate transfer at that time. But, and if we did, I think it would have been different. Because in real estate transfer, it's going to help the county on an even keel even till rather, across the board as far as those folks that are selling the big houses, moving down to the smaller houses, or the folks that's in a small house, starter house, so to speak, or something, moving up to a bigger house, you know, when they have more children or whatever. And, and when you're in times of situation like we are right now, and this economy, then it's gonna be more of an even base for us to do the works of their schools and different buildings and stuff, our capital projects, than it is right here in their development tax.
And the reason we stayed with the development tax and didn't opt into this was at the time, the development tax was generating more revenue than what the realty transfer tax was gonna be.
Right, well,
The realty transfer tax can generate as much money as you choose for it to generate. Depends on what rate you set per hundred
Yeah.
that you're going to record as the value of properties that are being transferred.
Right.
The state of Tennessee has had a realty transfer tax in place. They still have it in place. It's 37 cents per $100 of every value that's properties that are transferred. They are collect all the money, 100% of it goes to the state of Tennessee right now. There is a realty transfer tax, but they are in control of it. It's generating about $8 million a year, we think, for the state of Tennessee, at the rate they currently have set. So you can set any rate you so choose, depending on how many dollars you're trying to generate in revenue.
is that statewide, or is that
Yes, yes, sir.
$8 million?
No, that's for us. That's
Oh,
for-
Rutherford County.
For our county,
Yeah,
I
I was
think
gonna
it would
say,
be.
yeah. See, the state knew what they were doing. We didn't really know what we should do.
Well, the state's always tied our hands. They don't want, it's kind of, it's one of those unfunded mandates, you might say, just not giving us the control of our own destiny.
Well, now, at the time, I think there's two different things going on here too. On the Tennessee Realtors Association, I think is totally against this. I think they're totally against it. Our local real estate folks at the time was not. So which way they are today, we're just getting it on the table to give us, Rutherford County, an opportunity. Whether we take advantage of it or not, whether we do it or not, that's a totally different story. What the fee will be, I don't know what that would be. We're just talking about having the option, or in order to do something different. Right now, we can't do anything different, period.
I think at the time, the fee was capped at what the state was charged. You couldn't charge more than the state, you can charge less,
I believe you're right.
but there was a cap at the time.
So, that's just to give you a little bit of history is all I was doing, but what we do with it now is a different story, so I didn't. So if we're all under this bill, then Mayor, members of the steering committee, I mean, do you think we need to request it as just Rutherford County? Because if not, then if we do it statewide, we're gonna have a bunch of other counties with us, and I think at this point in time, if we're gonna request it this year, then, and really, we need 2/3 votes or 21 votes here on the full commission to send this with a favorable recommendation
Well-
for them to run this up the flagpole and see if it flies.
If you,
But-
if you remember, once we got involved in it before, and the state, all across the state, CTES got involved in it. The State Home Builders Association, the State Realtors Association got involved in it, and that's how the County Powers Act come to be. It was some kind of compromise that the state down there did to, with the lobby down there of the realtors and the home builders.
That's just on new builds though, $1 square foot.
Is this a private act resolution?
This is not a private act resolution.
Just asking to repeal the whole law.
You got two alternatives there, and Jeremy can explain those.
What we've drafted here was an idea that there is that they should enact they should repeal Tennessee Code Annotated Section 67.42913 in its entirety, and in its stead, there should be enacted a statutory provision that permits the implementation of a reasonable real estate transfer tax by a county legislative body via private or public act. Alternatively, that it should be amended to exempt Rutherford County from its governance, and for an amendment to be adopted that specifically allows Rutherford County to enact this realty transfer tax. So it's kind of, right now, we draft it in two forms. One is a complete repeal, and the second, and then with a statute in its place, and the second is an amendment that would be applicable to Rutherford County only.
So we would have to repeal the development tax if we went with
All this does is, like Mr. Sandlin said, is this would have, if you get section 67.42913 either repealed or Rutherford County exempted out of it, then Rutherford County would have to make a decision if it wants to come and do away with its private act on the development tax and put in place of that this or some combination. You'd have to go back with an actual private act that puts numbers and et cetera with respect to how much you're going to charge per hundred and so forth. That would be a separate act, and this would just get this 67.42913 changed so that you would have the opportunity to submit a private act that you would have to craft.
And an element of this that's important to keep in mind is that because we're a political subdivision of the state of Tennessee, we can only do what the Tennessee General Assembly permits for us to do. That's why it's important for us to specifically state that we can charge a realty transfer tax.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people out there do not understand that and don't know that, is we are a subdivision of the state of Tennessee, political subdivision. You know, we can't do anything unless the state of Tennessee gives us permission. And that's where I was getting a while ago about tying our hands and you know, and not allowing us to be able to take care of our own destiny. And that's kind of what I want to go.
I think the only option there that, and we do have two of them, would be the second one that applies to Rutherford County only. I don't believe the state legislation would ever get out of committee.
Yeah.
We'd never see the light of day. And I can understand why. I can understand that. But if we go ahead with the second option, it's gonna be a while. We're gonna have to do some considerable work on it for sure, but I think that's the only way that we can ever get that done.
But if we do the second option, they have to still repeal the law. Because the original law says no private act, nothing can.
Well, they will put some language into that paragraph that he's addressing here that would, this is done routinely throughout all this code. Lots of counties get exempted from certain things. They would exempt Rutherford County. They wouldn't say Rutherford County. They would exempt the county that has a population as of such and such 2010, and that would be us and us only from that provision. They put a little sentence in there right in that same paragraph.
They're a tricky bunch. Very tricky.
Well, I'll just tell you, before we get a motion, I'm not a big fan. Number one, I don't think it'll ever get repealed or changed, or there'll be a provision made for Rutherford County. And number two, I just don't think it's the time to start messing with people's taxes. I understand we need a more reliable, maybe a better stream of income at this point in time, but just don't think this is the way to do it. It's just me.
Well, I somewhat agree, but when we're still building schools, when we're still, Thursday night's going to be another exciting night at budget time, and if you can get in the building, come on up, you know. I mean, we're going to be facing it on the full commission level, and we can't keep going back to the property tax for everything that we have to do. I mean, why was this ever even looked at? As far as a development tax, $1 a square foot, it all came about in other counties and other states and everything saying, okay, we've got to tax the new growth to help us pay for the new schools and everything that goes along with it. And we're gonna do it on new houses. Okay, but not everybody coming into the county, moving in from out of state or another county, is buying a new house. So I don't think it's fair. They're buying an existing home, some of them are buying new houses, I'm sure, but but they're buying existing houses too. And I was very, very surprised in this committee process. I mean, this come up from our local builder, and I'm sure he don't mind. He didn't mind then. Denny Hastings brought it up. And he had a guy research all this and bring us all the information. And I'm a realtor. I figured it would be an outcry, man. They would sticks and stones, no way can you do this. And there just wasn't much to it. Like I said, that was then. I don't know what it'd be today. But as far as people in general buying houses, you wouldn't charge as much. They're charging, the 37 cents at our rate would be, what you said, $8 million for Rutherford County. So, it can be spread out and be a little something and be more palatable to everybody and wouldn't be picking on to me, the new house market or new house industry or the new builders. And because you've got a ton of us existing folks that live here in Rutherford County buying new houses, so we've got to pay it, And the builders and developers aren't paying it. It's the ones who buying the house are the ones that's paying it. So,
Is that 37 cents per thousand?
Per hundred.
Per hundred.
I'm gonna move it along, make a motion to approve the Rutherford County part, not statewide, but the Rutherford County part.
Where does the Rutherford,
So you want to take out the sections 1 and 2 then of this, or you just want to still?
Well, it may be better to ask Jeremy what part.
Yeah.
What parts in there we need to take out for it to actually be Rutherford County.
It would be sections 1 and 2, because, well, I would suggest that we would want to cut out the alternatively.
Yeah.
And then just kind of renumber, but that's, it is, and then you'd also want to get rid of.
So we started.
You'd want to get rid of sections 1, 2, and 4, because this resolution before the legislative delegates of Rutherford County to be repealed. So what you'd be left with
Be
is
1 and 2.
Is 3 and 5,
3 and 5.
which would be then come 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and we'd get rid of alternatively, and that would address the Rutherford County specifically.
That's what I'm moving, right there.
Did you get it?
I did.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
yes, so if this passes, are we actually asking for a real estate transfer fee or just the option to debate, study it, and then come back and ask?
Absolutely.
What this would vest in, theoretically, if the Tennessee General Assembly is receptive to this suggestion, it would come, it wouldn't be set. Well, I guess in theory, the Tennessee General Assembly will do what they want. So they could say, hey, yeah, Rutherford County can institute it with X amount of dollars cap, or not in an amount not to exceed the state level. I don't know what they'll do, if they'll even act on it. But it's possible, but it doesn't automatically mandate that there is a real estate transfer tax. This is really giving you guys the option
Right.
to figure out if you want to institute such a tax.
That's, Commissioner, very good question. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do, is give us back the ability to do something else if we want to do something else. In the meantime, I mean, this isn't going to be done this year. I don't know if it'd be done next year, as far as that's concerned, but at least this is out on the floor, and, we want to meet or talk with the the real estate commission here, and the builders and developers here, and then the constituents here, and all that, and get their input on all this, and what this does for them and what it doesn't do for them, and taking the development tax off and implementing this and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I wanted to get the talk generated. This doesn't do anything, though. It just gives us the opportunity to do something if we so choose to do.
Did you have some?
Right, that's clear, that's true.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Me? No.
You're a no?
I'm a no.
Okay.
And now, number 7, if you have a revised agenda, is the audit committee. Ms. Nolan, if you want to come up. Thank you, Jared. Guess we can test out
Thank you,
those
Jeremy.
new chairman duties.
I'd like to introduce you to this concept of an audit committee. The comptroller's office has encouraged all the county audits, all the county governments and the municipalities to consider establishing an audit committee. The audit committee is, you look to the mayor and you look to me to establish controls, but really there's not a reporting mechanism except through the audit. And of course, you know how you get all the letters at the end of the year. The audit committee is external from management, and it's a situation where, well, let me just go down this list. The comptroller on this first is requiring that they have to approve any of the duties and responsibilities of the audit committee. On page 2, they list out the guidelines of what the audit committee should have. I've also attached sample guidelines. That's on item 8. Yeah, the duties and responsibility. The sample ones. Now, CTAS and the comptroller's office work together to pull this together for us. It's not that I think that we have to have one. I think in times when there's no problems is a good time to have an audit committee established, that it's already there when there may be situations that come up.
Like, what would it, for example?
Typically now, you know that the comptroller audits us. One of the rules, one of the things that this audit committee will do is sit down with the auditors and make sure that they're independent in performing, and that information was given to them promptly. This statute also provides for some private, non-public meeting of the audit committee if there was somebody out in the community that was aware of something that they didn't feel comfortable coming to management, but they would feel comfortable talking to a committee member. You know, it would be set for that. I mean, we have a hotline. Some of these things that we already do, we've got a hotline, and we post it on the county's website. If anybody is aware of fraud, waste, and abuse, that they can call that hotline.
Well, to do that, so actually, 2 commissioners couldn't be on the audit committee
Well,
because of the
that's,
sunshine law? Is that,
no, I mean, because the statute provides for that.
oh, it does?
Mhm. Now, this is what, I've given you just some really brief background, and there's a resolution in here that I've kind of massaged, and it talks about, I'm on page 5 of the resolution, and it's setting up what the committee is. The comptroller says that there should be a minimum of 3 members on the audit committee. So I've just put some things out as supposing but you want this committee to be independent. I was recommending an audit committee, I'm on section 2, audit committee of 5 members, 2 being from the county commission, 1 from the Board of Education, and 1 from the road board, and 1 from the public. And that one of the members, I wasn't quite sure if it should say must or should, be a CPA. Figured at some point, you may have a CPA who is on one of those committees that could serve. To maintain the independence of those audit members, of the audit committee, if you keep on looking down there, to ensure the committee's independence, no audit committee member will be an employee, a spouse of an official or employee, or a person that commingles assets with the official or employee of Rutherford County. So that starts limiting who could serve.
How do you get around?
Oh, sunshine law.
The sunshine law.
Okay, sunshine law, okay.
That's-
I know that's where it's getting you. I put that statute in here.
I understand you want to.
The reason I asked that question for
page
the,
11.
I don't want the paper thing.
Open my- Okay, it's on page 12. I put the statute in here. And I'm under D. All meetings, and this is state statute, 9-3-405. All meetings of an audit committee created pursuant to this chapter shall be subject to the open meetings provisions of Title 8, except upon a majority vote of those members in attendance. For the public portion of the meeting, the audit committee may hold confidential, non-public executive sessions to discuss the following items.
And you can,
And those
and
things.
that's legal with 2 commissioners on the committee.
It said under that B there, Lisa, 9345B, says the audit committee members shall be external to management and may be members of the governing body.
board.
So there is plural there.
So the committee would meet in public some and in private.
In private.
And this section here allows for us to meet in private.
Right. Now, the rules, and I'm bouncing y'all all over the place. The rules on attachment A, starting on page 8, really talk about a minimum of 2 meetings. At least 2 meetings a year. The first one is after the audit is complete and prior to release. And it's in this section that they may have some private discussion. The second meeting, on page 10, on the second meeting, that is after the audit is released, and this is a public meeting, and the purpose of the meeting is to address the audit findings and any non-compliance with generally accepted accounting principles that the auditors may have noted. It also provides in here that, for example, if a department had a material finding, they would generally need to be coming before the audit committee explaining what they've done to correct the audit finding.
So not necessarily is this a audit committee to do, they could, but to do a full-blown independent audit
Well, you get an independent audit already.
From
That's
the
what's
state.
Right,
from the comptroller's office.
right.
But I'm talking about this, what you want set up here as far as this audit committee. They wouldn't be doing a full-blown, basically,
No.
audit.
No.
Because these folks would just really be observing the findings and how it was handled and what was done.
Instead
About
of
the findings.
just staff, Lisa, me, and others.
Right.
Hearing what the auditors are saying, you're to have an independent group receiving that information, asking questions, and it would just be a more transparent, independent process to allow some third parties that don't have a vested interest, you might say, to really critically look at what they're doing, what's been done in the county.
We've
I
got
have a-
controls in place, but yet, really and truly, it's the commissioners are responsible for ensuring that controls are in place. And one way, just one way to do that is setting up a committee, and that is their function, is to ensure that the county is in compliance.
And it wouldn't, what does this do for us different than putting this responsibility on the budget committee per se?
Well, that's what I've always told the auditors, is I felt like that the Budget and Finance Committee was the audit committee, and they think otherwise.
I mean, I feel better with what you just said comparing to what I first thought it was going to be as far as an internal, independent audit committee, which I don't see a couple commissioners and people on different committees or different offices being able to do that job. You know, it really need to be a hired out professional
Well,
type thing
that's
done.
what-
If it was an outside independent per se audit. But
Do
this,
audit.
this committee is just
Is the keeper of
Really-
information, yeah.
checking out the findings of what the audit was done and making sure that those things are taken care of.
And you're making sure that the auditor is independent.
Yeah.
You know, you're going the steps
Right.
to make sure that who is this person, you know the comptroller, but there are individuals of the comptroller that is doing, that is working these audits, you know. And so those are the people you're going to talk to, and you're going to say, well, look, okay, who on the team is a certified public accountant? And who on the team, you know, how long have you been doing this audit? You know,
Let me ask you, is this, I'm sorry,
That's all right, go ahead.
is this being required then by the state?
Not required, it's being, if,
Asked.
it's been asked, it's being suggested, and it's not a bad thing.
It's been asked before.
No,
But
not
this-
really. This
no?
is, this is,
Okay.
well, it's asked of me, do we have one?
Okay.
And I've said no, but I always viewed the Budget Committee as being the
Right.
audit committee.
Right.
Once the audit is complete, that meeting of potential findings are done with the mayor and me. But if it's not, if there was a finding in one of these two ladies' offices, the exit conference would be held with them, not me or the mayor. If there are findings at the school board, those are not discussed with me and the mayor, it's only discussed with the school board.
I see,
You see?
I see.
This way it's
That
going to be
makes-
discussed with more people,
Yes.
a more broad base of people, and not just
Yeah.
one department or
Right,
individual.
you've got some external, I mean, you've got things, you've got the school board, and just envision, you've got 4 other people who are not related to the school board looking at it. And then you've got external from the county. You would have 3 other people on the board looking at what we're doing in the county side.
Are there any ex officio members of the committee?
Well, that's, again, those are just my suggestions. That's what I thought that maybe would need help from y'all on how you would want to set this up. As I said, I was just suggesting 2 commissioners, 1 Board of Education, 1 Road Board, and 1,
So 5 members.
which you could have more, but you know, you don't want to be.
Let me ask this
Right.
question, you know, it'll just sound wrong, but it may come out wrong. You know, we'll have 2 commissioners, we'll have a road board member, we'll have a school board member that are all 4 elected. We'll only have 1 at-large citizen. Should we not have maybe a couple more
Well, the
at-large citizens to give kind of a,
I leave that to you. The sample given for the makeup was like 2 or 3 commissioners, and the rest being citizens.
okay.
You know, so there's no magic
Right.
to that. Let me see if I'm finding here.
I
what it
guess
says.
where I was going is give more citizen
Opportunity.
input.
You can.
What you
You
look
just have
like,
to have a minimum of 3.
is the one citizen may be a CPA,
She
or
just,
should be.
that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, okay.
She wants you to take this and study this and
Right.
Yeah,
really
that's
digest this and review it, and then maybe come back.
Who commits these committee members? Who appoints these committee members?
The
The commission.
legislative
The steering
commission.
committee and then the full commission?
Yes.
There's one other thing that I had, that y'all would need to think about, and it's also in section 2. it's how the committee is, it says the members are appointed by the commission to staggered terms. I wasn't for sure how long the term should be. And I was thinking if it was a crossover term when you have, what happens when you have a school board member who might not come back in the next election. There's a lot of, I didn't know if that was going to cause problems.
Well, most of our commissioners and other members that are actual members of the board is coterminous with their their term of their office. I mean, the planning commission members, the 4 people that
Yeah.
are commissioners, they're on there, they serve coterminous.
Coterminous, okay. They served their term, okay,
They
4
serve their
years,
term.
okay. Okay.
Insurance committee, whatever, yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
But again, those are some technical issues that you can work out. I guess you have to decide if you really want to use this process. The comptroller may require that an audit committee be established for 2 reasons. You're in non-compliance with certain GASB standards, number 1. And number 2, you've had recurring findings for 3 years that need to be addressed and you haven't fixed it. So they can require this. We're not there, and hopefully we'll never be there.
But I still think it's a good idea to have this committee. Of course, now my long-term goal, I think for this county of this size, I would love to see an internal audit department set up that would report to this audit committee, but that's long-term.
This suggestion, we'll call it a suggestion. This went to all 95 counties?
Yes. Yes, that letter, I put the letter to you. It was all
Okay.
county mayors and to all county mayors and finance directors.
These positions on this board would be paid positions?
I would think
Some
it
form.
should be.
Be hard to get a CPA for sure, even if you're only meeting,
Twice a year.
twice a year. As a volunteer.
And you have CPAs in Rutherford County that perform governmental audits. And you've got a lot of CPAs in town. And I'm sure would love to provide their experience and help to this county.
For a ham sandwich and an apple.
You don't want anything from
I don't want anything from you. I just would, as I said, wanted to introduce this concept to you, and I'd like to do the same thing Thursday with budget.
I think
And let
it's a
y'all
good
start
concept.
thinking about it.
And the time frame on this, you're thinking,
Mm-hmm.
as far as us reading through this, mulling it over, asking questions, bringing it back up, when would you like to see something brought back, go to the full commission, be approved for something?
Well, I would like to have this in place prior to the next audit
Yeah, there you go.
being completed. And that would be about August or September.
Okay.
Let's say September. Because generally the audit is complete September, October, then it's released about November, December.
So
So
we
I'd like it in
can
place
actually
by
kind
then.
of get this thing, I'm thinking budgetary wise, if we were paying this committee and something, whether it's 5 or 7 or what, then we can get this.
It would kind of help to
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, have to know that before budget.
Right,
Yeah.
and then estimate 2 meetings.
Okay.
If we were to do like you had proposed, and maybe just add 2 more citizens on there. That's a total of 7.
That's kind of what I leave up to y'all.
Or you
on
could
to
make a
do.
requirement as, instead of the must or whatever, I'm just thinking which we've already brought up, and there may be other questions, but one of these citizens has to be a CPA.
That's
I
just her
think that's-
suggestion,
Yeah.
that's not required.
Well, I would think it would be good.
But
Yeah.
all of the members should have financial experience and capabilities of asking the right questions and
Right.
being able to read all of the reports and the balance sheets and the operating statements.
Right.
This resolution, this sample resolution, if you would go on page 6, I was trying to satisfy section 4. So the committee shall have access to services of a financial expert, either through a committee member or an outside party engaged by the committee for this purpose. To me, engaged by the committee for this purpose means money. So I thought if we could get somebody to serve that would take that place.
Yeah, I should know this, but I don't. But I know, like you said a while ago, there's some companies here in town that do this. Does the county, are we contracted with anybody that does that? I
That
know-
does our audit.
Yeah,
The comptroller office audits us.
but we're not contracted with anybody to actually come in and do it. But the state
We're
does.
contracting with them to do the audit.
And other entities,
We've-
school board contracts with independent auditors to do
The activity
the
funds.
activity
Who do they contract with?
Randall Matlock has the contract for the activity funds, the funds that the kids raise.
Right.
And then you've got, I was eliminating some because of, that they do work. Then you've got Job Hastings.
Joe Turley and Hastings, they do
They do
911.
911 and community care. So they're component units of us. So,
I was thinking
anyway.
that there are some of the people do that. I know 911 does it, 'cause I know,
Well, you've got a lot of CPAs in town, and without naming names, I've identified another one that does governmental audits, has done governmental audits before, that does not contract with any of those entities. It doesn't have to be a governmental auditor, I mean, as long as there's a CPA that does audits.
there need to be somebody who knows what they're doing.
Well, that can understand,
Right.
and especially and help the committee members who may not have that broad background of accounting.
Ms. Nolan, the counties could do this many different ways, and that, I guess that's probably an obvious question, but you could have 5 members, 10 members, it wouldn't matter,
Right.
whatever that county
There's a
chose to
minimum
do.
of 3.
And we can, okay, and we can set up our own guidelines, it's whatever they might, whatever.
The guidelines have to be approved by the comptroller's office.
Okay. I mean, I would, if we're gonna have 2 commissioners, if that's what we did, okay, and we could do that. Yeah, and I would think that they should come from budget, just off the top of my head. It doesn't have to be, I understand, it doesn't have to be.
Might even be better if they don't.
As another external,
Yeah.
somebody to look
I
at.
hadn't thought of it that way, that may be.
We've talked about years ago, doing an independent audit across the board, and it, we just had never done it. We've talked about it.
The state is, comptroller's office is doing a very, very thorough independent audit.
Yeah.
I
They're
think
not
maybe what
leaving
you're
any
talking
stone
is performance audit,
A
when they're doing
performance
a
audit.
financial
Yeah,
audit.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say in our audit, if something comes up every year, usually it's some small thing, it's somewhere, it's something that's wrong, and we fix that, and there are thousands, I guess, millions of things that can go wrong. So we only have, and they always list 2 or 3 things, and then the next year, it's those things we fix, you probably fix those things, and it's another
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
So they don't recur. In other words, we're not getting there to have 3 years of the same
Right.
problem,
I mean, we're not doing this because we have to.
trying to prevent
We're
it.
doing this because we want to. And-
Okay.
Before we're told we have to.
I don't think, I'd like to,
But, I
as
mean,
long
yeah,
as that,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
that it wouldn't ever be a have to.
Well, it's a good idea. It's a great idea. So I think we can probably come up with something for budgetary time.
There is another section on here that twice a year, or let me find it. On page 7 of the resolution, is that one of the things is that it will establish a process by which employees, taxpayers, or other citizens may confidentially report suspected illegal, improper, wasteful, and fraudulent activity under the provisions of this statute. Oh, this other thing. But anyway, we have the state's hotline number is posted on our website. But in the guidelines, states that we will This is on page 10. The audit committee will additionally ensure that a public notice be published at least annually in a local newspaper of general circulation to make citizens aware of these two ways to report suspected fraud, waste, and abuse. And one is calling the hotline, and one is contacting an audit committee member. Because some things aren't found in a financial audit.
I know you're gonna present this, you already said, I think, the budget, I'm sure, again and again, but I get the impression from listening to you, this is good business.
Well, I think it is.
I think I agree with
I mean, I think it is a measure of is it transparency
That's
or
what I was thinking. The mayor hit it right on the head, I think, here, yeah.
with the public.
This is required for every public company that in the United States already has been for some while, and even much, much more detail.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. I'll give it to y'all now.
See you Thursday night.
See you Thursday.
All right, any other business? Hearing none, seeing none. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Let's do it.